Beautiful theme song. It's a little loud. Oh my gosh, guys, are you guys ready to talk about TV style programming? Multi-million-dollar TV style programming. Perrin, is it going to work?
We'll see.
Ross, is it going to work? Is it going to work?
100% going to work. It never fails.
It never fails. Restream.
I didn't even know what it was until last night. So let's go.
This podcast is sponsored by Restream. Why live stream to one platform when you can simultaneously live stream to every platform to discover new audiences faster using Restream.io?
Your daily drop on gaming, live streaming, and social media today is: are gaming TV shows viable in 2020? VENN just recently launched, and we know that somehow next year G4 is going to be making a comeback. I mean, they already failed once, so can they make it work this time around? Andrew Perrin, Andrew Wall. I know it already sounds by the tone that I'm like expecting these to fail, but we don't actually want them to fail, do we? Like, we want these things to succeed.
Well, I had the transition animation there. I absolutely want them to succeed. I want them to work. I mean, just a little bit of background on us. We created the largest gaming network out there. It was like a multi-million-dollar business. We had like 5 YouTube channels. We had a team of 45 people working full-time, editors, writers, websites, social media. And we watched competitors for years like TGS and Machinima and G4 and Rooster Teeth. And we studied them all the time, right, Perrin? And we watched all these companies make great content. And then we watched all these companies. I think my mic was a little bit loud there. Then we watched all these companies go out of business because they lost millions of dollars every year. So we want somebody to make the model work. We want premium content to happen in the gaming vertical and with TV shows. It's just a matter of who can make the business model work. And with the recent launch of VENN, which looks like the latest iteration of TV gaming style content, what are they going to do different to make it work? Perrin, are you rooting for them?
I remember I got like a little dose of G4 before it went away, and I would love for it to come back, and it is coming back, and I'd love for it to succeed, but I'm skeptical having watched this type of content over and over and over again. It seems like it's successful for a while, but then eventually it goes out of business. It's just not sustainable, and it comes down to, I'm assuming, production costs. Getting like it can't pay for itself with how much it costs to produce. And we've made content a lot leaner. I mean, as content creators now, a single person can do so much just by themselves. So maybe it's doable now. Maybe we have the tech. Maybe we have the resources to make it lean, efficient, and cheaper to execute while still being higher quality. But the verdict is still out on that. Has any show survived long enough? And can we consider any past show like a true success? Let's look at like Machinima. Was Machinima technically considered a success with its shows? If it was not profitable and went out of business, maybe we got entertained by its content for a while, but it didn't last. So does it need to last to be successful? If a show's around for a year, is that success? I don't know. I don't know. Either way, I'd like to see it come back. I don't know. Ross, what's your take here?
Yeah, I kind of fall into the same place. And to answer your question there, because I think that's actually a really good question. Where do we draw the line at considering something a success, especially in this field? And I think because of just the impact that, like you guys talked about, Machinima and the others actually had on the industry, I would say I would consider them a success. Unfortunately, we have to define success in this certain industry as maybe that's only a 2 or 3 year period where you had success. And maybe that's just the lifeline of these things, the lifeline of these things on the internet. It's really hard to keep something up and going for so long, especially when you're limited on, your budget. You have to have a whole staff of people to actually do these things. It can be a difficult turnaround. So I think that's a good place to actually start this conversation is, what do we define as success? Do we define like they have to still be going prominently today, or is that 2 or 3 year period enough? I mean, AWOL, you've been in this industry a lot longer than what I have. Where do you stop the line at success? Where does that stop with you?
Guys, go ahead and retweet the episode on Twitter. Reminder while I'm talking. So this success for this type of stuff, I mean, a lot of people say, well, the show was around for G4, for example, was around for 12 years. Machinima was around for 8 years. And so therefore it was successful, right? the game station was around for 4 years. Must have been successful, right? But when you do the numbers on these companies, when you even just estimate the production costs of doing these premium TV style gaming shows with these hosts that cost tens of thousands of dollars per month each, the studio itself, which probably costs you $1 million, if not, maybe $800 to $1 million a year with your live editor, your cameras, et cetera, et cetera. And then you start to do the math on how large their audience is and how much money the sponsorship is bringing in. You do the math and you realize they're losing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars per year producing this content. And so if you last for 4 years, but you lost millions of dollars over the course of that 4 years, I consider that a business failure. At the end of the day, sure, the creators won. That's true. Sure, the editors and the camera people won. That's really good. But the people who invested money into the initiative, whether that's a media company, a private investor, whoever it may be, they lost millions of dollars. And at the end of the day, these are businesses and they're supposed to make money. And so the operations that you see last the longest are the ones with the tightest budgets and the most shoestring budgets. Like the original G4. I mean, it was the cheapest show you could possibly produce ever. And the hosts of the show often talked about how they were on a shoestring budget, they never got the resources they needed, and they complained about that. But it lasted for 12 years. And we know from experience, having done TGN, TGN Squadron, TGN Anime, TGN Star Wars, TGN, all these gaming things, and we've attempted gaming TV style shows in the past, the operations that we had, and TGN Minecraft, the ones that had the lowest cost per month are the ones that lasted the longest and were the profitable ones. And the ones that had a really high overhead cost are the ones that were more volatile and more likely that we had to close them down because they were losing money. And so at the end of the day, I don't think that, and maybe I would love to be proved wrong by VENN and the G4 relaunch. I don't think that there is a fast enough curve up in terms of audience acquisition and growth and sponsorship money to offset those hundreds of thousands and millions of dollars in overhead costs you have to throw into something like this right out the gate. You would have to be like an exponential, super, ultra, mega unicorn success with something like VENN in order to get there, in my opinion. And right now, I know, Perrin, you were pulling up some VENN avenues. They just launched. Looks like they have a couple hundred concurrent viewers to kick things off. Let me put it up on the screen. It looks like it's off to a decent start. But I mean, in order to pay the bills on a multi-million-dollar production operation, you need to have 30,000 concurrent viewers at any point to have sponsor, tens of thousands at least, to be able to have sponsors cover the bills on something like this. So what do you guys think? Do you think that audience acquisition is realistic in a realistic timeline?
I mean, if you look at what it takes, if you compare this to a streamer, a live streamer point of view, because this is essentially what's going to be happening. They're going to need to be live streaming. So they're trying to bring TV, but they still have to enter into the same realm and the same competition as other live streamers. So, I mean, their quality sets them apart. But is quality ever really been like, quality doesn't always matter on live streaming and on social media. So the only thing they're really riding on is the fact that gamers are going to want this. And I'm not so sure that that's true. I think a lot of gamers think that they want this stuff. I think I want this. I want to watch G4 again. But is that just nostalgia speaking? Because really now what we're used to when we consume gaming entertainment content, we're used to getting much closer to the personality behind it. We're used to getting this like more of a connection out of it. We're used to getting to understand the host, the content creator. We're getting a deeper glimpse inside their life. We're hanging out with them on stream. The experience is a lot deeper than what the previous viewer to television experience was. And you're not going to get that experience with this TV type show. I think they'll find it difficult to build community around these type of shows. And that will be the problem. A single creator, because of the way that they work and because they let people in and let people closer, they can build community better. Viewers are so used to that now. I don't think they realize that these shows are going to not give them the same return and value that they're used to getting. and they'll watch for a little bit. It'll be a novelty, but they'll glide away to another creator that they like to watch regularly, that they get invested in their community. I think that's where the struggle will be. They'll have a nice initial impact, 387 concurrents here on Twitch. Again, this is their very first day, so I don't want to be overly critical, but 57 watching on YouTube, Twitter, there's 10. This is a relatively small launch for VENN. I don't see it growing much faster than a normal creator, honestly speaking. And so they're looking at huge money loss for quite a long time before they're even profitable, if they ever are.
That absolutely makes sense. And, just looking at the studio shot you were just showing a moment ago on Twitch, it looks like that studio is maybe, a $250,000 to $300,000 studio minimum. It could be up to about $500,000. Plus, you probably have a crew of 4 people working that studio, full-time people just to do the studio. Then you're going to have a back-end team. Your burn rate for a business like this, you're probably looking at burning at least $50,000 a month out the gate, probably closer to $60,000 to $70,000 if I were to just estimate it. Making up $60,000 to $70,000 per month in revenue is going to require massive audience, massive sponsorship, and massive, basically massive backing from investors. So my guess is that they have a large bankroll to fund this thing, at least for year one. And they're going to look and see, will this thing grow fast enough? Is the revenue going to go up fast enough? And hopefully the investors haven't put in too much money out the gate, because so far, to my knowledge, there's a 100% failure rate on TV style content in the gaming vertical, unless it's got a shoestring budget and they really almost abuse or take advantage of talent at a certain point. Or you're able to get talent on board that is super young, doesn't care how much money they're getting paid, just happy to be there. Then you can ride on their low costs and their enthusiasm for a bit, and maybe you can stretch the life of the operation. But at the end of the day, I'm not sure how viable it is. So Ross, what do you think about the idea that Perrin just brought up? Sure, high quality content sounds good in practice, but it sounds to me like nobody cares about who's producing the content or how it's produced. They only care about the personalities that are on the screen. And when you shove 4, 10, 12 personalities onto one channel, is that too much of a personality soup for anybody to fall in love with VENN?
I think it makes it more difficult. I think it's a good point. We've talked about this 100 times before, how high quality content does not equal good content. I think you have to have some kind of relatability factor, like we've talked about before, and combine that with starting. I don't know their financial situation. None of us do, but I'm assuming, just based on everything that you just broke down, AWOL, they're starting in the red, like deep in the red here. And everything that we went over didn't even mention advertising costs. That's a whole other thing to toss into the mix, because I feel like that's going to be the only way that they're going to be able to draw in viewers. But yeah, I mean, having a one-on-one or one-on-two where there's just 1 or 2 people on screen, it can I think it adds just to making it personal. And I think more than ever, especially in today's day and age, people are looking for they want to feel part of a conversation, first of all, because we're not having nearly as many as we used to, and they want to have that feeling of having companionship. And that's just really difficult to get when you've got 4 people sitting around not really even acknowledging the audience, which I know I get how that sounds. But when you're doing a show style like this, I feel like trying to get some kind of audience interaction would be greatly beneficial to them. And so far, I haven't seen anything. Like I said, I hope I'm wrong.
I did see they did a normal, like they were pulling questions from chat and answering them in the beginning. And they had it was like a little bit more of an intimate setting. It was just two people in front of computer screens answering questions and then talking to each other. That was the thing. They're talking to each other to answer the questions. They weren't talking to chat. And that's what I'm getting at. That's the experience we're used to. Where when I'm streaming, the reason that people come in and what I see is they like it whenever the streamer talks to them. That's what they want. They want direct engagement, and not having that. I mean, maybe not every piece of content needs to have that now, but that is a gamer's expectation when they are consuming content on these platforms, on YouTube, on Twitch, on even Twitter, even though it's not going to be much of a platform for them. So Maybe a counter argument to this then is during COVID-19, maybe we're open-minded to a more nostalgic style of television programming that used to be, and something that's a little bit more event-oriented. Maybe this is the right time for something like this. Maybe we're open to this right now. That can be a counter argument.
I don't know. I'm getting, we need to preface all of this deep into the episode with how I'm personally jaded by this idea, because at TGN, we tried TV style programming like the kind I'm pulling up on the screen, literally like this, right? With the beautiful looking set in the background, this cool gamer look, people sitting on couches with smiling faces. You've got lights, camera, action. We had talk shows. We had good edits, the whole nine. And at the end of the day, our regular programming we were doing on our channel was way more successful than this. Our regular YouTube style programming was more successful. And focusing on just a handful of personalities that are into a couple games or do a particular format, and that's it for that particular destination, was what works on the internet. And let's just take an example. I'm going to put you on the spot, Perrin. Can you pull up a YouTube channel called Internet Today on YouTube? And I'll talk about them as an example. So Internet Today started on Machinima as the original channel, Machinima ETC. And on Machinima ETC, they were unable to make it a profitable business as a part of this larger media entity. But these two guys, Ricky and Elliot, went independent, and I'm going to pull them up on the screen right now, and they created their own YouTube channel that was basically identical to this TV style content that Machinima was doing. Just the two of them doing silly news, internet culture, and gaming content. And now they have a Patreon that makes them about $15,000 a month or so. They don't reveal the number. Plus they have sponsors on top of that, plus YouTube revenue off of that. So they're making, I'd say, roughly probably $20,000 per month as two independent creators doing TV style show content. So the point of me showing this and talking about this is, as a part of a larger company, they were unable to make it profitable and to make it work. These are the guys. These guys are fantastic. I'm a channel member. I love them. They were unable to make it work as a part of a larger media corp, because if you're part of a larger media corp, you have to pay for the executives and the sales team and the studio and the operations team and HR and insurance and 401ks and all this crap. But as a pair of dudes sitting in your own little studio making your own show, you just got to pay for the two of you, a cheap little studio, and that's it. End of story. So I think that the overhead costs of having these mega studios and these mega productions push profitability over the line to where things like VENN and G4 and Machinima and TGS and the whole nine just can't be profitable. It's just too damn expensive. And the whole industry, the YouTube industry, the streaming industry, all of these pricing rates and these sponsorship rates are set up for individual creators. They pay enough money so that individual creators can make enough money to make content. They don't pay enough money so that media corps can make enough money. And so that's where I think they're trying to come into like a creator style market right now, but with media corp level overhead and media corp level back end that they have to pay for. And they're like, hey, can we have that level of money? And the market's going to say, nope. Because why are we going to pay you a lot more money for your content when we can just pay a creator the same amount of money? And so these companies, I think, are going to count on a premium advertising rate to cover their bills, but I don't think that they're going to get a premium advertising rate. That's what Machinima was banking on with their whole business, with all of their channels, is they were hoping that CPMs on YouTube would go up, 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 up indefinitely. And it turns out they stopped growing about 5 years ago and just stayed the same. And then they went out of business. And so, counting on that revenue growth or that premium rate for premium content, I don't think it's necessarily going to be there until you have the eyeballs. What do you guys think about that?
Doesn't YouTube particularly want quality content like this because it's more advertisable? Like, couldn't, and well, you know about YouTube in the back end here on the business side, like, couldn't they ink a deal with YouTube where it's a more of a maybe YouTube Red type of thing, or maybe VENN or G4 does like a proof of concept and shows the quality, it shows like an initial audience growth, and then they can use that to ink better deals with some of these platforms that pay better. So that way those platforms have something that's clearly always going to be advertisable and high quality.
Yes, I hope that they could do that. So I'm rooting for VENN, and maybe they could do something like that. But they'll need to get the audience to make it juicy for an advertiser to actually bite onto. Like, you know how challenging it is just organically, without non-paid, to not use industry jargon, to not pay money and to grow on YouTube. I mean, you can't even pay money and grow on YouTube. I mean, they'll need to get millions of views per month just to be advertiser ready. It doesn't matter how premium the content is. They need to have some sort of audience, or YouTube can't take this channel to big advertisers or even put it into any sort of premium slates or pitch it in any premium way until it's actually got a damn audience. And they need to tout at least some sort of substantial subscriber count too. So sure, putting it in YouTube Red, you're mentioning that you could get premium rates for it being in YouTube Red. Sure. But the way that YouTube Red works is, I mean, you can sell shows on YouTube Red, and you can have, like, you know, access privileges through YouTube Red, and you can get premium rates there. But once again, you need to have audience to drive toward that. Otherwise, it's not worth YouTube's time. And in terms of getting premium ad rates, when people watch your content through YouTube Red, you only get those premium rates when your viewers are already YouTube Red subscribers. And so unless you're able to attract more YouTube Red subscribers to your channel somehow, you're not going to get the premium rates. So it all kind of comes back to the fact that something like VENN or G4 or any TV style programming in the future needs to build a large audience first, then they can monetize it second. And maybe they can work that business development angle to make it work, but they need to plan on having a 4-year timeline to get there. Otherwise, they're just going to run out of money fast, and they're just going to go out of business. And it's going to be sad, because these creators and these editors and these people that are working these jobs that are counting on this for a living, they're just going to be out of a job once again. And they're just going to be jumping from business to business to business in the gaming vertical, hoping that one of them works out. And at the end of the day, we haven't seen one work out yet. At least one that is able to fairly pay their employees and have it be like a really solid job. Maybe that's not what internet content is about. I mean, I don't know. What do you got? Okay, let's switch from VENN and let's talk about G4. Did you guys watch G4 back in the day? Do you have that nostalgia for G4,
Yeah.
Ross and Perrin? It sounds like Ross does.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Love the channel, man. Attack of the Show was fantastic. They had another show I can't remember. It was just a computer show, and the host was really energetic and good. And then, of course, you have X-Play. That was, I think,
X-Play was always my go-to.
Yeah, every gamer growing up, and there's a lot of behind the scenes drama behind that show. By the way, I highly recommend everybody look it up. But I'm really excited to see where they go with this. But more importantly, if they can actually make it last.
What do you think, Perrin? Do you think it can last? G4, this relaunch? Are they going to try the same strategy from 2005 and 2020? Do you think they'll revolutionize the industry again? What do you think?
I don't think they'll revolutionize the industry. I do think they will return with a bang. I do think they'll make an impact when they return. Nostalgia marketing in the past 5 to 10 years has worked insanely well. So, I mean, G4 definitely has a better play here than like VENN does. VENN kind of, I think, starting from scratch. I don't know a whole lot of history behind VENN, but so they're going to be playing on that nostalgia cash, which does work. The thing is that we don't know is, will it work over time? So I think they'll splash with huge numbers. I think they'll even maybe like grow those numbers in like the first couple of months, but I think then you'll see them kind of start to wear down. And the challenge will be, can they market well and grow an audience with their larger amount of resources? Like, it's all going to be like a time game. They're spending massive amounts of money, and they have to very intelligently spend this money, because in a limited amount of time, you have to gain as much audience as possible while maintaining your high quality like talent and assets and set and everything like that. So the clock is ticking on how quickly you can get audience to get to what point, to where they're getting big advertiser deals, to where they're getting big platform deals, to where they've reached a critical mass that it at least keeps them sustainable. So they're going to need to be excellent at social media marketing, which is new. That wasn't a thing back when G4 TV was. They're going to need to be expert at advertising on every social media platform. They're going to need to be experts at community building, both in their show programming with their hosts and in chat they're going to need some sort of new revolutionary, maybe not revolutionary, but some sort of new implementation of how they're engaging with the viewers in chat. What are they going to do in Twitch chat? That's going to be like the main thing I want to look at. They need to be thinking creatively about that. There's room here to innovate for sure. I think there is. I really hope they do. I would love nothing more for this to succeed, but it is going to be a huge challenge. I'm glad that they're taking it up, but I am skeptical.
Yeah, one thing real quick, that just going back to what AWOL said earlier, and I think Perrin, you even hit on it too. What made G4 so good is look at the personalities that were on there. Morgan Webb, Adam Sessler, Olivia Munn. That's where she got, I don't know if she got her start there, but she was certainly on there. You know, these are people that were obviously relatable. They obviously drew in an audience. And the stories behind the scenes go when the creative control started to be taken away a little bit, that's when everything started to go under. So much like VENN, I hope that the people in G4, that the actual, the people who made it work last time will have a full control over the content that they put out. And that's also what worries me with VENN is I don't know if there's anybody behind the scenes, any producers kind of calling the shots, you know, here's what you got to do to be advertiser friendly and stuff, and kind of putting a halt on what the actual creators have control over. And I think that's a huge factor that we haven't really mentioned yet. Just having complete control over your content, I think that gives you a better chance to succeed than anything.
That's a great point. And one thing that's VENN is doing, and if you don't mind pulling up, Perrin, that tweet they have of all their destinations, this is a part of like the new school style strategy that these platforms have to use to be relevant. They need to be everywhere at the same time. They can't only be on Twitch. They can't only be on Twitter. And if you could look at this tweet right here, which is really interesting, VENN is they have their own website. They have Twitch. They have Facebook. I believe they have YouTube. They have Twitter, they have Twitch. They're like restreaming right now. And it looks like restreaming is the strategy for these TV style networks. They can't be exclusive to one platform or the other. And that's yet another point. The strategy right now, if you want to grow, and VENN realizes this too, is you need to be restreaming to multiple platforms at the same time. And if you guys want to be restreaming like we are right now, we're live on Twitch, DLive, Facebook, YouTube, and Periscope, then go ahead and use Restream.io. They sponsor our show. We've been using them for years. We love them. Link in our bio or our about section of our channels. Also, if you want to use code DROP25, DROP25 with no space, DROP25 with no space, you can get 25% off Restream.io and grow your audience from scratch as fast as possible. I hope. VENN, I'm looking at you right now. I see you doing Restream strategy. I hope that it works out for you, VENN. Ross, take us out of here, buddy.
Yeah, just to clarify, I think we all really want this to succeed, because when there's more good gaming content out there, we all win, and it all pushes us to be more creative on our own to compete. So that was your daily drop today. Full replays up on YouTube. If you missed anything, subscribe to the audio version on Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeartRadio, literally any podcasting platform. We will be back tomorrow. Happy creating.